Mr. Carter's life was a blur of boardrooms, contracts, and late-night phone calls. His mansion, a sprawling estate with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, felt more like a museum than a home. It was beautiful but cold, much like his relationship with his son, Liam. Liam was 8 years old, with messy brown hair and eyes that always seemed to hold a question no one answered. He spent most of his days alone, wandering the empty halls or staring out the window at the garden below. His father loved him, he knew that, or at least he tried to believe it, but love didn't fill the silence between them. Sophia arrived 6 months ago, hired as their new maid. She was quiet, unassuming, with a gentle smile that softened even the sternest faces. Unlike previous staff members who kept strictly to their duties, Sophia noticed things. The way Liam hesitated before speaking, the books he read over and over again, the faint hum of music he sometimes sang under his breath. One afternoon, while dusting the living room, she found Liam sitting cross-legged on the floor, flipping through an old photo album. In one picture, a younger Mr. Carter twirled a woman across a ballroom floor, both laughing brightly. "Do you know how to dance?" Liam asked suddenly, looking up at her. Sophia paused, her hands still clutching the duster. "Yes," she said softly. "I used to. Can you teach me?" She hesitated, glancing toward the door. Teaching the boss's son to dance wasn't exactly in her job description, but something in his hopeful expression made her nod. "Okay," she said, "but only if you promise to practice every day." From then on, their secret lessons began. Simple steps in the living room after dinner, when the house was quiet and the world outside felt far away. For the first time in months, Liam smiled. And though neither of them realized it yet, those moments would change everything. It was a Tuesday evening, and Mr. Carter had returned home earlier than usual. A rare lull in his schedule gave him the luxury of leaving the office before midnight, a decision he almost regretted as he stepped into the quiet house. Silence greeted him, broken only by faint laughter drifting from somewhere deeper inside. Curious, he followed the sound to the living room. What he saw stopped him in his tracks. Liam stood in the center of the room, his small frame swaying awkwardly but enthusiastically to an invisible rhythm. Beside him, Sophia moved gracefully, her hands guiding his arms as she counted softly under her breath. 1, 2, 3, spin. The boy giggled as he turned in a clumsy circle, nearly tripping over his own feet. Sophia caught him just in time, steadying him with a warm smile. "You're getting better," she said encouragingly. "Try it again." Mr. Carter leaned against the doorway, unnoticed. He couldn't remember the last time he'd heard Liam laugh like that. Free, unguarded, happy. It wasn't just the dancing. It was the way Sophia looked at him, as if she truly believed he could do anything. For a moment, jealousy flickered in Mr. Carter's chest. Why hadn't he been the one to bring that light back into his son's eyes? But the feeling quickly gave way to something else. Gratitude, maybe, or guilt. Whatever it was, it unsettled him. When the lesson ended, Sophia noticed him standing there. Her face flushed, and she straightened quickly. "Sir, I can explain," she stammered, clearly flustered. "There's no need," Mr. Carter said, raising a hand to stop her. His tone was calm, though his mind raced. "I didn't realize you knew how to dance." Sophia hesitated, glancing at Liam, who now clung shyly to her leg. "It was part of my life once," she admitted quietly. "Before," she trailed off, unwilling or unable to finish the thought. "Before what?" Mr. Carter pressed gently, surprising even himself with his curiosity. She shook her head, avoiding his gaze. It doesn't matter anymore. But it did matter, to him, to Liam, and perhaps to her too. As he watched them together, Mr. Carter felt a pang of something he couldn't quite name. For years, he told himself he was doing everything for his family, working tirelessly to give them the best life possible. Yet here they were, finding joy in something so simple and so far removed from all his efforts. That night, as he lay awake in bed, Mr. Carter couldn't shake the image of his son spinning across the floor, laughing like the weight of the world had lifted off his shoulders. And for the first time in years, he wondered if he'd been chasing the wrong things all along. The next morning, Mr. Carter found Sophia in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. She glanced up as he entered, her expression guarded but polite. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the tension lingering from the night before. "Sophia," he began, pulling out a chair at the counter. "I wanted to thank you for what you're doing with Liam." She paused, her hands stilling on the knife she'd been using to slice fruit. "It's nothing really," she murmured. "Just something to pass the time." "It's more than that," Mr. Carter insisted. He hasn't smiled like that in, well, I can't remember when. Sophia offered a small smile but didn't respond. Instead, she focused on arranging the fruit onto a plate, her movements precise and deliberate. The silence stretched between them until Mr. Carter finally broke it. "You were a dancer once, weren't you?" Her shoulders stiffened slightly, and for a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then softly, she said, "Yes, a long time ago." "What happened?" Sophia hesitated, clearly weighing how much to share. Finally, she sighed and leaned against the counter, her gaze distant. "I grew up loving dance. It was my whole world. My parents couldn't afford lessons, so I learned by watching videos and practicing in our tiny apartment. Somehow, I got good enough to join a local troupe, and later, I even performed professionally." Her voice softened, tinged with nostalgia. "But life has a way of catching up with you. When my mother fell ill, I had to quit dancing to take care of her and pay the bills. By the time she passed, I was too old, too tired, and too far behind to start again." Mr. Carter listened intently, struck by the weight of her words. He'd always assumed people like Sophia, people who worked quietly in the background, lived simple lives free of ambition or dreams. But now, hearing her story, he realized how wrong he'd been. "And yet," he said after a pause, "you still teach Liam. Why?" Sophia looked at him, her dark eyes filled with quiet resolve. "Because dance saved me once. It gave me hope when I had none. If I can give even a little bit of that to your son, then maybe it's worth it." Her honesty caught him off guard, stirring emotions he wasn't ready to confront. He nodded slowly, unsure of what to say. "You've done more for him than I ever could," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Sophia shook her head. "That's not true. You're his father. He needs you, not just for the big things, but for the small ones too." Her words lingered in the air long after she left the room. For the rest of the day, Mr. Carter couldn't shake the image of Sophia as a young girl, twirling across a makeshift stage in a cramped apartment. Her resilience reminded him of everything he'd forgotten about sacrifice, passion, and love. As he sat alone in his study that evening, staring at photos of Liam as a baby, he made a silent promise to be better. Not just for his son, but for himself. The days that followed were different. Subtly, almost imperceptibly, Mr. Carter began to change. He started coming home earlier, not every night, but often enough for Liam to notice. At first, the boy seemed unsure what to make of it. His father's sudden presence felt foreign, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit, but curiosity soon outweighed caution. One evening, as Sophia and Liam practiced their steps in the living room, Mr. Carter appeared in the doorway. "Mind if I join?" he asked, his tone light but tinged with uncertainty. Liam froze mid-step, staring at him as if he'd suggested building a spaceship. "You want to dance? Why not?" Mr. Carter shrugged, stepping inside. "I used to know a thing or two." Sophia exchanged a quick glance with Liam before nodding. "Of course," she said warmly. "We could always use another partner." And so, awkwardly at first, Mr. Carter joined them. Sophia guided him through basic steps, her patience unwavering despite his stumbling attempts. "Relax," she encouraged. "It's just like walking, only with rhythm." Liam watched wide-eyed as his father, stoic, distant, larger than life, tried and failed to execute a simple spin. For the first time, he saw his dad not as an untouchable figure, but as someone who could laugh at himself, who wasn't afraid to look silly for the sake of trying. As the weeks went on, these impromptu lessons became a nightly ritual. The three of them would gather in the living room after dinner, music filling the once silent house. Slowly, Mr. Carter grew more confident, his movements less rigid. More importantly, he grew closer to Liam. "Dad, you're getting good," Liam exclaimed one night, clapping excitedly after they finished a routine together. Mr. Carter grinned, ruffling his son's hair. "All thanks to your teacher," he said, nodding toward Sophia. She smiled, though there was a flicker of sadness in her eyes, a reminder that this was only temporary. Sooner or later, life would pull them all back into their separate roles. But for now, they allowed themselves to enjoy the moment. These sessions weren't just about dancing. They were about healing. Each step brought Mr. Carter closer to understanding the boy Liam had become, and the man he hoped to be. He learned to listen, to encourage, to celebrate small victories instead of focusing on perfection. For Liam, the transformation was profound. The shy, uncertain child began to blossom into a confident young boy. He stood taller, spoke louder, and laughed more freely. Even at school, teachers noticed the difference. But perhaps the biggest change was in Mr. Carter himself. Dance taught him things no boardroom ever could: the value of trust, the beauty of vulnerability, and the importance of being present. With each lesson, he shed layers of the armor he'd worn for years, rediscovering parts of himself he thought were lost forever. One night, as they wrapped up practice, Liam turned to his father with a mischievous grin. "Guess what, Dad? I'm going to perform at the talent show." Mr. Carter blinked, caught off guard. "The talent show?" "Yeah." Liam nodded eagerly. "I'm gonna do a dance routine. Sophia says I'm ready." Pride swelled in Mr. Carter's chest, but beneath it lay a pang of something else: gratitude. Gratitude for Sophia, who had given his son not just the gift of dance, but also the courage to believe in himself. "You'll be amazing," Mr. Carter said, pulling Liam into a hug. Then, glancing at Sophia, he added quietly, "Thank you." Her smile was soft, yet it carried the weight of unspoken understanding. This journey wasn't just about teaching steps. It was about mending hearts. The announcement of the talent show became a turning point in their household. Liam was brimming with excitement, practicing tirelessly in every spare moment. The living room transformed into his stage, with Sophia choreographing routines that showcased his newfound confidence. Mr. Carter watched from the sidelines, marveling at how much his son had changed. Gone was the timid boy who hesitated to speak. In his place stood a determined performer, eager to share his passion with the world. Yet, as proud as he felt, Mr. Carter couldn't shake the thought of Sophia, her quiet sacrifices, her unfulfilled dreams, and the profound impact she'd made on their lives. One evening, after Liam went to bed, Mr. Carter approached Sophia in the kitchen. She was wiping down the counters, humming softly to herself. "You've done so much for him," Mr. Carter said, leaning against the doorway. "For both of us." Sophia turned to face him, her expression calm but guarded. "It's my job to help where I can," she replied simply. "It's more than that," he insisted. "You've given him something I never could, a sense of purpose, of joy. And you've reminded me of what truly matters." She looked away, her hands stilling on the cloth. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." "No," Mr. Carter said firmly. "You're extraordinary, and I want to repay you for everything." Sophia frowned, unsure where this was going. "Sir, there's no need. Let me finish," he interrupted gently. "I know your story now, the dancing, the sacrifices. You deserve another chance to chase your dreams. Let me help you." Her eyes widened, surprise flickering across her face. "What are you saying?" "I'll figure it out," Mr. Carter promised. "Whatever it takes. I'll make sure you get back to the stage where you belong." For a moment, neither spoke. Then, quietly, Sophia whispered, "Thank you." Though she didn't fully understand his intentions yet, one thing was clear. This act of kindness would change her life forever. Mr. Carter didn't waste any time. The next morning, he began discreetly investigating ways to help Sophia return to the world of dance. He reached out to contacts in the arts community, asking about prestigious academies and training programs. One name kept coming up: the International Academy of Performing Arts, renowned for nurturing talent from around the globe. He arranged a private meeting with the Academy's director under the guise of discussing potential sponsorships for their scholarship program. During the conversation, he subtly steered the discussion toward auditions, inquiring about candidates who might qualify despite unconventional backgrounds. "She's talented," Mr. Carter explained carefully, avoiding specifics. "But life got in the way. If given the chance, I believe she could shine again." The director agreed to review an application if one were submitted anonymously. With that promise secured, Mr. Carter turned his attention to Sophia. Over the following weeks, he encouraged her to share more about her past performances and techniques. Under the pretense of curiosity, he asked her to demonstrate moves she'd once mastered, filming snippets on his phone. "You're incredible," he told her sincerely after one such session. "It's inspiring to watch." Sophia laughed softly, brushing off the compliment. "It's just muscle memory," she said. "I haven't danced like this in years." "But you still have it," Mr. Carter insisted. "That kind of talent doesn't fade." Unbeknownst to her, those videos became part of a portfolio he compiled. Alongside glowing recommendations from local dance instructors, he secretly hired to evaluate her skills. By the time the talent show approached, everything was in place. On the night of the performance, the school auditorium buzzed with energy. Parents filled the seats, cameras ready to capture their children's big moments. Backstage, Liam paced nervously, adjusting his costume while Sophia reassured him. "You've practiced so hard," she said, smoothing his hair. "Just breathe and let the music guide you." Mr. Carter stood nearby, watching them both with pride. As Liam prepared to take the stage, he pulled Sophia aside. "There's something I need to give you," he said, handing her a sealed envelope. She frowned, confused. "What is this?" "Open it later," he urged, his voice thick with emotion. After the show. When Liam's turn came, he stepped onto the stage with newfound confidence. The spotlight illuminated his small frame as music swelled through the room. His routine, a blend of playful spins and heartfelt gestures, earned thunderous applause. Backstage, Sophia hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You were amazing," she whispered. Then, remembering the envelope, she opened it cautiously. Inside was a letter of acceptance from the Academy, along with details of a full scholarship funded by an anonymous donor. Her hands trembled as she read the words over and over. When she looked up at Mr. Carter, her eyes glistened with disbelief and gratitude. Why?" she stammered, unable to form complete sentences. "You deserve this," he said simply, his own eyes shining. "Go chase your dreams, Sophia. You've earned it." For the first time in years, Sophia allowed herself to dream again. Not just for others, but for herself. The weeks following the talent show were a whirlwind of emotions for everyone involved. Sophia's acceptance into the Academy marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for her, but for the entire household. At first, she hesitated to leave, worried about abandoning Liam after becoming such an integral part of his life. But Mr. Carter reassured her that her departure wouldn't mean the end of their connection. "You've already given him so much," he said, "and now it's your turn to focus on yourself." Liam, though sad to see her go, understood what this opportunity meant for Sophia. On her last day at the house, he handed her a handmade card adorned with stick figures dancing under a bright sun. Inside, he'd written, "Thank you for teaching me how to dance and how to believe in myself. I'll never forget you." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "I'll always be proud of you," she whispered. "Never stop dancing, okay?" With that, she packed her bags and set off for the Academy, a place where dreams came alive through sweat, discipline, and determination. The transition wasn't easy. Years away from professional training had left gaps in her technique, and the rigorous schedule pushed her to her limits. But Sophia embraced every challenge with resilience, knowing she carried the hopes of those who believed in her. Meanwhile, back at home, Mr. Carter continued to grow into the father Liam needed. Without Sophia there to guide them, they stumbled occasionally. Missteps during practice sessions, missed cues during impromptu performances. But these moments only strengthened their bond. They learned to laugh at their mistakes and celebrate small victories together. Mr. Carter also began using his resources to give back in ways he never had before. Inspired by Sophia's journey, he established a foundation dedicated to supporting aspiring artists from underserved communities. He named it the Second Step Initiative, symbolizing the idea that even when life knocks you down, there's always another chance to rise. Word of the foundation spread quickly, drawing attention not only within their community but also beyond. Local news outlets featured stories about its impact, highlighting individuals whose lives had been transformed by scholarships and mentorship programs. Among them was Sophia herself, who became an ambassador for the initiative while continuing her studies at the academy. Through video calls and occasional visits, she stayed connected to Liam and Mr. Carter, sharing updates about her progress and offering encouragement. Watching her thrive filled them both with pride, reinforcing the belief that kindness creates ripples far beyond its origin. For Liam, Sophia's absence taught him independence and gratitude. He no longer relied solely on others to build his confidence. Instead, he found strength within himself, channeling it into everything he did, whether it was mastering a new dance routine or excelling in school projects. As for Mr. Carter, the transformation was profound. Gone was the emotionally distant man consumed by work. In his place stood someone who cherished family, valued empathy, and understood the importance of giving back. Dance had become more than just steps. It was a metaphor for the rhythm of life, one he now navigated with purpose and grace. By the time Sophia returned home for a brief visit months later, the changes were undeniable. The once cold mansion now buzzed with warmth, laughter echoing through its halls like music. "I barely recognize this place," Sophia joked as she stepped inside, greeted by hugs from both Liam and Mr. Carter. "That's because it feels like home now," Mr. Carter replied, smiling. And for the first time in years, it truly did. Sophia's journey became a beacon of hope, not just for herself, but for everyone she touched along the way. As she trained at the academy, her story spread through interviews, social media posts, and even local performances where she spoke about overcoming adversity. People were inspired not only by her talent but also by her resilience and humility. Back home, Mr. Carter's foundation gained momentum, fueled by Sophia's example. Artists from all walks of life applied for scholarships, eager to pursue their passions despite financial or personal obstacles. Among them was a young girl named Maya, whose love for painting reminded Mr. Carter of Liam's early fascination with dance. When he visited one of the foundation's art showcases, he watched Maya proudly display her work, a vibrant mural depicting dancers twirling under a starry sky. "It's beautiful," Mr. Carter said, crouching beside her. "What made you choose this theme?" Maya smiled shyly. "I wanted to show how dancing can make people feel free, even if they're scared or sad." Her words struck a chord deep within him. Freedom. That was exactly what Sophia had given Liam, and what he himself had rediscovered through her influence. It wasn't just about art or dance. It was about creating spaces where people could heal, grow, and dream without fear. Liam, too, carried forward the lessons he'd learned. Now 10 years old, he began volunteering at community centers, teaching younger kids basic dance moves. At first, he was nervous about leading others, but Sophia's voice echoed in his mind. Teaching isn't just about showing steps. It's about sharing joy. Slowly, he found his rhythm as a mentor, earning admiration from both children and parents alike. One evening, during a neighborhood event organized by the foundation, Liam performed alongside some of the scholarship recipients. The crowd erupted into applause as he executed a flawless spin, his confidence shining brighter than ever. Standing in the audience, Mr. Carter felt a surge of pride and gratitude for how far they'd all come. Afterward, Sophia joined them via video call, congratulating Liam on his performance. "You've grown so much," she said warmly. "I'm so proud of you. You taught me everything," Liam replied, beaming. "No," Sophia corrected gently. "You taught yourself. I just gave you the tools." Her words resonated beyond that moment, reminding everyone present that kindness has a way of multiplying. Every act, whether big or small, creates opportunities for others to rise, to shine, and to inspire. As the night drew to a close, Mr. Carter stood outside, gazing up at the stars. He thought about Sophia, Liam, Maya, and countless others whose lives had intertwined because of a single decision to care. Kindness, he realized, wasn't just an action, it was a chain reaction, and its ripples would continue long after they were gone. Years later, the once empty mansion was alive with laughter and music. Mr. Carter sat in the front row of a grand theater, his heart swelling as he watched Sophia take her final bow on stage. She stood radiant under the spotlight, her movements fluid and powerful, a testament to years of hard work and determination. The audience erupted into applause, their cheers echoing through the hall like waves crashing against a shore. Beside him, Liam, now a teenager, clapped enthusiastically, his eyes shining with pride. "She's amazing, Dad," he said, leaning over to speak above the noise. "She always has been," Mr. Carter replied, his voice thick with emotion. After the performance, they met Sophia backstage. She greeted them with open arms, her smile brighter than ever. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, looking between father and son. "You did it all yourself," Mr. Carter insisted. "We just gave you the first step." Sophia shook her head. "No, you gave me a second chance at life. And now," she gestured toward the bustling theater around them, "now I get to do the same for others." True to her word, Sophia had returned to the foundation after graduating from the academy, using her success to mentor aspiring dancers. Her journey had come full circle, inspiring countless young artists, including Liam, who continued to pursue dance while exploring other creative passions. As they shared stories backstage, reminiscing about the early days of clumsy spins and secret lessons, Mr. Carter reflected on how much had changed since that fateful night when he first saw Sophia teaching Liam to dance. What began as an ordinary moment, a quiet act of kindness, had transformed into something extraordinary, touching lives far beyond their own. Before leaving the theater, Liam paused by a display case showcasing memorabilia from notable performers. Among the photographs and costumes was a framed letter, the very acceptance letter Sophia had received years ago. Beneath it read a plaque inscribed with a simple message: "Dedicated to those who rise after falling, and to those who help them stand again." Mr. Carter placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, smiling softly. "That's us," he said. Liam nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "And Sophia too." Together, they walked out into the cool night air, the city lights twinkling like stars above them. Their lives were forever intertwined, not because of wealth or fame, but because of the choices they'd made to care, to connect, and to believe in one another. In the end, it wasn't money or power that defined them. It was love, courage, and the unshakable belief that everyone deserves a chance to dance.